Hey guys, it's David Fay from Secret Forge. Wanted to make a quick video since the community was so heavily talking about the kind of drama that's going on with Etsy, 3D printing, and merchant sellers. Is Etsy shutting down shops that are 3D printing miniatures? Unless it's something, according to their guidelines, unless it's something that you've designed yourself, any templated products no longer fall in line with their creative standards. So what we did was we reached out to Etsy support, like many in the community did, and the email that we got back was really interesting. So I wanted to share that with you here, so you can give it a read and discern from it yourself what you think the future of printing on Etsy is going to look like. No matter what, it seems like maybe having all of your eggs in the Etsy basket might not be such a good idea moving forward, but I hope this email gives merchants that are currently selling on Etsy a little peace of mind and maybe a little different story from what we've heard, circulating from articles like Tom's Hardware or just things we've read around Discord and on YouTube. So check it out. So this is the email that I got back from Etsy. I'm just going to read it out loud and highlight a few areas that I think are at least worth discussing and should bring a little calm to sellers on Etsy. Jackie from Etsy. Hi there. I hope this email finds you well. I'm Jackie from Etsy support team. Thanks for reaching out with these important questions about 3D printing, commercial license, and Etsy updated creativity standards. Here's a direct response to each of your concerns. So this first one is about selling 3D prints with a commercial license. If a designer grants you commercial rights to a 3D model, you may print and sell that model on Etsy, provided that your listing accurately represents your role. I think that's really key, and complies with all Etsy policies. So I would say, if you're selling Secret Forge models, Bite the Bullet models, Artisan Guild, if you're selling models from creators, make sure you're attributing who actually created and designed them. That could be really important. This also includes intellectual property and the new creativity standards. So I know some people were talking about their listings being taken down, their stores being taken down. If you are a merchant selling Marvel, DC, Nintendo, anime, very popular sculptures and figures in the Patreon circle, on Etsy, and if you're just selling in the United States or depending on the country that you're in, you might be violating intellectual property. Is even if a Patreon creator, some phenomenal sculptors, some great creators with great intentions, I'm sure, just creating their fan art and trying to make a living out of it. If they're selling merchant licenses, they're actively selling the rights for you to sell someone else's intellectual property that doesn't belong to them, unless they have, commercial rights to do so themselves. Let's keep reading on. Items produced using 3D printers or CNC tools in your shop based on licensed designs are considered made by seller or designed by seller, depending on your involvement and use of production partners. So this is really important. I do a lot of print on demand with t-shirts. We have the option to select production partners. When I go to create an Etsy listing and when others were even doing so this week, there's not great options for us to be the production partners ourselves for, a creator's original design. So I don't think that Etsy's current listing setup is really ideal for our industry. So I think we just need to stay within their policies and create the listings the best we can and cover our bases to make sure that people understand. Maybe you even just put it in your description. This model is created by this person. I 3D print and process it using this resin, this 3D printer, and so on. You must ensure you have proper rights and disclose your process as needed. We just kind of covered that. Printing and selling licensed sticker designs. Now, I had brought up to them another, industry that was adjacent to 3D printing. Essentially, there are other people printing stuff at home that are not 3D models, where you can go on like Shutterstock, buy commercial rights to an image, and make a sticker. So I wanted to know, do the rules apply the same for t-shirts, mugs, stickers that would for 3D printing, just to get a different angle, because it's essentially the same thing. And they go on to say, yes, as long as it complies with Etsy's policies, you should be transparent about your listings and your process. So this keeps coming up. And not violating any intellectual property rights. The last thing I want to cover here, it's actually two things, I think. Etsy does not proactively remove listings solely because they involve 3D printing or CNC tools. That's why we all still have our stores up. Most of us. I know some people might be struggling right now and have had their stores taken down, but this is why Etsy is not actively bulk removing 3D printing stores, because they are not doing this in an automated fashion. Enforcement actions are typically based on policy violations, such as unlicensed use of copywritten material or reselling mass-produced goods that do not meet Etsy's standard. If a listing is reported for infringement or found to violate policies, it may be reviewed and removed. So I mentioned this yesterday in Discord that it's, even before I got this email, it's pretty much business as usual. I've been selling on Etsy for over a decade before I was even touched a 3D printer. And the way that DCMA takedowns work, someone has to initiate that. They don't really automate takedowns, which is why Etsy is kind of notorious. It's like the Silk Road of IP infringement. If you look at mugs, t-shirts, stickers, any print-on-demand products, even cheap drop shipping stuff from AliExpress, there's a lot of IP infringement all over Etsy. It's full of Nintendo and these other large well-known animes and brands. So the last thing here that I think is can bring some calm to our merchants are the announcements and policy updates. Etsy has published updated policies and public announcements regarding the creative standards, which clarify on what can be sold and the roles of sellers. They go on to link out to a few things. But right here, there is no indication that Etsy is planning to remove compliant 3D printing or small batch fabrication businesses that follow the guidelines. In this broader context, this is really important. I'm going to change the color here, as this is what gave me the most confidence that selling on Etsy isn't going anywhere. Etsy's updated policies are designed to clarify, not restrict, what can be sold. So the terms of service update was just to bring clarity to what you're already doing. It hasn't changed what you're allowed to sell on Etsy. They're just looking for more clarity in their terms of service. And I also suspect that they probably updated their terms of service to clarify in the back end themselves so that perhaps they can take stronger action against IP infringement. If anything's going to force Etsy, which is a marketplace, and at least in the United States, they're protected from lawsuits of IP infringement as a marketplace, and that gets handed off to the seller, the person committing that IP infringement. If anything is going to get Etsy to update their policies or take action, it would be large studios, sitting down with Etsy and saying, hey, there's a ton of IP infringement on your platform. You need to update your policies so that when we issue our DCMAs, we can act faster. We can do an entire store takedown instead of just a listing. In the past, I've had designs taken down from my store just for using keywords and tags, in Etsy's, tag area where you have the 13 tags. I sell anime inspired things on Etsy. It's a gray area, right? Inspired by. So I had this t-shirt for JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. And if you know the anime, the Aura had a t-shirt that just had that all over it, which was fine because Aura is not copywritten. But when I use JoJo's Bizarre Adventure in the title and in the tag, I think it was Funimation or someone, I did get the listing taken down, and they did reach out to me on email. It is what it is. Lesson learned. Mass manufactured, drop shipped products are not permitted except for in certain cases, such as craft supplies. So, I mean, our industry doesn't mass produce. We make per order. So as long as you're not casting large volume and mass producing, it seems like we're protected there as well. So, yeah, so that's that. I hope this email gives you some peace of mind for your Etsy store. And what I would recommend moving forward is that on all of your descriptions, you're very clear at who the designer is to attribute the actual creator of the model, and to be sure to highlight what you do, what your process is, as that came up multiple times in Etsy's email. They reiterated that. But as far as I can see here, it seems like it's business as usual on Etsy. Now, I know this is just a support email from a support representative, and there's others in the community that have heard, mixed responses from support. That's why I reached out to them and formulated a really clear email, as I wanted a very clear response. So, aside from preparing your listings and double checking that you're not violating IP, that you have the licenses that you should have, and that you're outlining your process as the manufacturer, the production partner for these creators, in a sense. What I might do is, if you have a listing taken down or a flag on your store, reach out to Etsy and make these things known clear to them, or ask them what violation you have committed, as it might be something in the policy that we're not aware of yet. So, yeah. Thanks for watching this video, and I really hope this can, help some merchants out there that are sweating, if their store is going to be taken down overnight. Last, I should say, it's maybe best now in uncertain times to diversify, be on different platforms, cover your basis on Etsy, of course, but from what I've learned in going on 11 years in e-com, or selling online e-commerce, it's always bad to have all of your eggs in one basket. So having your own website, building your email list, not relying on sole marketplace and platforms, because you never know when a policy change might happen. And if your entire business model was centralized onto one platform, then it leaves you vulnerable. It's not a fun task. It's not an easy task to duplicate all your listings and divide and conquer on multiple platforms, but it might be what we have to do to ensure a long-term growth for our businesses. So thanks again, guys, and shoot us a follow. This is one of our first videos on YouTube, and I hope this was helpful, and I'll continue to make things that I think is helpful for the community when news drops, or I think it's something else to make for you guys. All right, see ya.